Constitution the categories of persons that judicial officers, that is the judges of the High Court, those of the Court of Appeal, and those of the Supreme Court, the justices of the Supreme Court, are named as categories of persons, judicial officers, to which are entitled to pension. Now, if you also come back to the states, you also find out who and who, under Section 210 of the Constitution, it talks about those in the public service of the states are entitled to pension. And also equivalent under Section 173 of the Constitution, those in the public service of the Federation, people who are also entitled to pension. Now the question now is, who are the persons under the public service of the states and those in the public service of the Federation, for purpose of saying that these are the people that are entitled to pension? We now look at the interpretation of the Constitution under Section 318 of the Constitution to actually determine whether a governor of a state is a person in the public service of the state to enable him to be entitled to pension.
Well, is the governor not a public servant?
No, you see, the governor is not in the public service of the state within the meaning under the Constitution. Even if under Section 18 of the Interpretation Act, public officers are defined to include or to limit them to only to people who work in the public service of the state and public service of the Federation. And those in the Constitution spelled out the clerk of the House, the members of the, those who work in the House of Assembly and National Assembly, and then those who work in the statutory corporation of the state, those who work in the civil service, and those who work in the local government. Now, the Supreme Court had an opportunity to pronounce on whether a governor, the president, is a person in the public service of the state or public service of the Federation. In that case of Ojukwu, Jim Odumegwu Ojukwu versus Yaradua, the Supreme Court stated in that decision that the president, the governor of a state, is not a person in the public service of the state or that of the Federation. And as such, because what happened in that case was that when Dim Odumegwu Ojukwu lost the presidential election to late Musa Yaradua, he went to court. And one of the issues for determination in the court was whether that the election of Yaradua should be nullified because, being a public servant, he ought to have resigned being a governor of Katsina State. That at that material time, he was still a sitting governor of Katsina State when he contested the election without resignation or without tendering a letter of resignation 30 days before the election. So the Supreme Court took time to say, no, if you look at the Constitution, the governor is only a political office holder whose tenure is only at the mercy of the electorate. He has no letter of employment. The governor of a state has no letter of employment. The governor of a state does not have the retirement age. The governor of a state does not have pension attached to a letter of his employment. So these are not the category of person that should resign. So also the governor of a state, that should tender resignation for a group of them to take part in the election. Also, in the case of Theodore Oji, versus Onyema Ogeshika and PDP, that was something. What happened in that case? Theodore Oji, the immediate past governor of Abia State, at that material time of contesting the 2007 election, he was the chief of staff to former governor Oyus Akalo. His deputy at Commerce was the commissioner for works. He contested the election and won. And then Onyema Ogeshika went to court. The issue that Theodore Oji ought to have resigned being a public officer before contesting the governorship election of Abia State. The court went on to elucidate on the case of Yaradua, another line of authorities, like the case of Adele and others. The court said the governor of the state doesn't have a letter of employment. Is not person named under the Constitution as those as public officers, as those working in the public service of a state that ought to have resigned. So consequently, there are only a political office holders whose tenure is as regulated or determined by the electorate. It's the electorate that will have to look at whether we should remove this man or to give him a second chance to come back for second term. So if not, he cannot come back. So consequently, these are not public officers. So to answer your question, the governor of a state is not a public officer defined under the Constitution. The Constitution expressly excluded governors and political office holders. If you look at the case of The Supreme Court also went on to say that, look, the Speaker of the House of Assembly of the States and all the members of Parliament, the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, and all the senators, House of Rep members, chairman of local government, and councillors are not public officers within the meaning of the Constitution, those in the public service of the Federation or the state. So the governor of a state is not a person within the contemplation of the Constitution to be a person under the public service of a state to enable him be entitled to pension. Now, the other issue is whether the House of Assembly of a state has the constitutional power to enact a law relating to pension. The answer is no.
We'll get to the House of Assembly members. When Syria filed the suit concerning this ex-governor's pension,
Yes.
well, the Attorney General argued that the state laws duly passed cannot be cancelled.
That's absolutely not correct. See, we have so many...
Was the law duly passed?
Yeah, even if the law was duly passed, you can go back to court, ask the court to determine whether this law was actually passed in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, because the Constitution is superior. If you look at Section 1, any other law made by State House of Assembly or the National Assembly that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, that law will become null and void. Now, even if the State House of Assembly had properly passed that law, and that law wasn't passed in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, or they don't have the legislative competence to even pass that enactment, individual taxpayers can take up that action in court and ask the court, have this law set aside, and the court will so declare. Because if you look at the provisions of the Constitution, pension falls under item 44 of the exclusive legislative lists. It's not under the concurrent list. It's not a residual matter under the residual list of the states. Pension is item 44 of the exclusive legislative list. So no House of Assembly of a state can pass a law under our 1999 Constitution as amended relating to the substantive pensions of any person, of a governor, as the case may be. Now, the person or the only organs of the National Assembly, it's only the National Assembly that has the legislative competence to legislate on pension matters. And the National Assembly legislature have also passed the Pension Reform Act of 2004, which has been repealed and reenacted as Pension Reform Act of 2014. Under that Pension Reform Act of 2014, Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, and Section 5 of that enactment spell out the categories of persons that pension should be paid to, pursuant to the power conferred on National Assembly. There is no way, if you look at that section, the section I've mentioned, it talks about those in the public service of the Federation, those in the public service of the states, those in the public service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and those in the public service of the local government and the private sector. There's no way he mentioned that those political office holders should be entitled to pension. It's not provided under the Pension Reform Act. So, what individual House of Assembly could now subsequently enact, pursuant to the provisions of that Pension Reform Act, the House of Assembly of a state can now make residual legislation that this is the manner and modus operandi to which local government, those in the public service of the local government and public service of the state, can receive their pension. That is what they can be. They cannot, in substantive enactment.
What you're saying is that the Houses of Assembly, they don't have the constitutional power to legislate on pension matters.
Yes.
They don't have it.
No. It's under the exclusive list of the National Assembly. It's only the National Assembly that can enact. If you look at this position, had a judicial pronouncement this week. In fact, in the case of Gaba, Alhaji Gaba Omar versus the Taraba State government, what happened in that case? Gaba Omar was a former deputy governor of Taraba State that was appointed after the former deputy governor was purported to have been impeached during the regime of Dan Baba Santai. Now, the man went to court to say that his pension and gratuities as a former deputy governor for 2 years has not been paid, which is was at the rate of 236 million. So the issue for determination at the court, National Industrial Court, just presided over by Honorable Justice Innocent Amadi, delivered judgment. Kenneth Amadi delivered judgment on Monday, this Monday we have just passed, that the House of Assembly of a state has no constitutional power to enact law relating to pension, and consequently, the purported enactment of the Taraba State Pension Law for ex-governors and deputy governors, as the case may be, was null and void. He declared the so null and void, and said that the former deputy governor that was brought in has no claim, because there was no basis for them to pay him, because that law was not done in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, that the House of Assembly has no basis. In fact, if you look at other sections of the Constitution, like Section 124, Sub 5, where most of them fall into that, like, it is only after the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Commission had made provision, which the National have made provision as to, this is how much you are going to pay, that before they can now, the National Assembly will now enact the legislation. If the National Assembly had enacted the legislation pursuant to the order or directive by the presentation made to the National Revenue Mobilization, then the House of Assembly can now consequentially make a law. But as long as that provisions of that Constitution has not been made, or there's no provision made under the Constitution, the House of Assembly does not have the constitutional powers to enact the pension law for any governor.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'd like you to react to last year, Delta State House of Assembly passed the law enabling ex-governors to receive pension in the state, despite the public outcry that this is completely wrong. So when we come back, you tell us what the Constitution say about passing a law that maybe does not have the interest of the citizens at heart. When we come back, you get to react to that. Let's take a break. We'll go right back. It be passed into law, and what the House of Assembly members did in Delta State, despite the public outcry, it was still passed into law.
First of all, if you look at the constitutions under the chapter 2, the fundamental objectives and directives and principles of state policy. Now we have what we call the economic objective under the constitution, that every governor of the state or the president of the country should strive for the economic good of his own citizens. Now, the law, strictly speaking, if the Constitution allows a state House of Assembly to pass a state enactment, whether that law is, the people are not happy with the law, it goes to NISH because they have the constitutional right to do that. But where they don't have the constitutional right, that particular law is null and void. Now, coming to the issue of the governor that pension law has been made, you see, it's an abuse. They rip off the people. The governor has access to what they call security votes of over 2.something billion every month, which that is not accountable to anybody. Whether he uses the money for the police, for the military, for security, he's not accounted to anybody for that money. Now, at the end of his tenure, the governor is entitled to what they call severance gratuity. Severance gratuity. All political office holders, including councillors, House of Assembly members, senators, and all of them, House of Assembly members, they are entitled to what they call severance gratuity. This thing runs into several millions of naira. A lot of people don't know about it, except you are involved. And then the governor will now sit down again and ask this, say, I want to pass the pension law so that I will take care of myself without taking care of the people. Usually, and in practice, this is what they do. The governor will call the principal members of the State House of Assembly, they say Speaker, Deputy Speaker, principal members, and say, we want this kind of enactment. And they will arrange for money and give it to them. Like, for example, like in Akwa Ibom here, they will now say, meaning that their Oga want it, let's do it. Money will be arranged. They will call, maybe they will call the permanent secretary, the government house, go to the warehouse in the government house where they keep cash. They go and load cash and give it to the principal officers of the house. They go and share the money. Before you know it, they say they have passed that law. And the House of Assembly sail out themselves because the governor who gave them a peanut for them to pass this jumbo enactment for them. And then you see, that's why you see most of the State House of Assembly members, 2 years after leaving government, they have become very poor. Because, number one, the governor cheated them because of this peanut. Some of them 2 years they have sold virtually everything they had. Sold all the cars. Some of them who took cars after leaving government, they sold all of them, sold land, say they are calling you, former house member is calling to come and buy land. You now begin to say, when you were there, what did you do? You only got a peanut, and then pass this pension law for governors that, for example, in Akwa State, it was Atta that started the pension law of 2000 under Atta. Then because Akwa came under his regime, blossomed the whole money. That medical bill for the governor per annum, 100 million naira. No hospital anywhere in the world. I also live in UK. There's no hospital that will charge you 100 million. What kind of sickness? Even a dead man, a cop cannot be embalmed for 100 million naira. And then you take in, he also is entitled to a maisonette in Abuja and also in Akwa Ibom State. Is entitled to domestic staff of where 5 million naira will be paid to a domestic staff per month that he won't even pay them what 150,000. And then entitled to SUVs every 4 years. And then when the governor dies, the state will have to give him a state burial. The same thing with the wife. The deputy governor, the same thing. And then this will live in this kind of jumbo pay. Then the House of Assembly that ought to have checked these excesses will go and collect a peanut and then pass this law. And then the governors keep on collecting money. In fact, most of us wouldn't have even known about these laws because some of these laws were even passed in secrecy. If you look at, sometimes you go to the House of Assembly or some state and ask the speaker, ask the clerk of the house of that law, they say, he wasn't passed here, so we don't have it. At some state, you will not even see it. You go to government printers, ordinary should be the people to print that enactment. You go to government printer, they don't have it. And then you now begin to figure out, it is when there's a dispute about payment by either with the predecessor and the successor of payment, like what happened in Zamfara State, where they started fighting. Say, I'm entitled to 10 million naira every month. You didn't pay me. That people will even know that such a law that have even passed in the states.
So some states they do it in secrecy.
Yeah.
Well, when the whole thing came out, some governors have come out to say that the likes of Saraki, Amechi, they've come out to say, well, I said no, don't pay me the ex-governor pension, whatever. They've come out to refute that. They've never collected anything concerning ex-governor pension, whatever. Well, you get to react to that one, but we have to step aside for the BBC Pidgin Minute when we return. And we'll also get to invite our parliamentarians to be part of our plenary today. The number is 0902-223-1011 or 0817-624-8565. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. To look at the implication of the Federal High Court judgment on House of Pension to former governors of state, still revisiting the issue because it's still a cause for concern when it comes to the interests of Nigerians. Well, a lot of people are coming out to condemn it, and that's why the fact that it's been condemned, well, the House of Assembly members are still enacting and passing such laws. 0902-223-1011 or 0817-624-8565. Our guest in the studio is Victor Ukutt Esq. Thank you for staying with us. Well, during the conversation, you can actually go to our Facebook page and be part of our discussion for today. Hello, good morning to you. Welcome. Providing 200 million naira annual pay to ex-governors, deputies, pension for life, at a rate equivalent to the salaries of incumbent governor and deputy governor respectively. A new official car and utility vehicle every 4 years, one personal aid, and provision of adequate security, a cook, chauffeurs, and security guards for the governor at a sum not exceeding 5 million naira per month, and 2.5 million naira for the deputy governor. Others are free medical services that you mentioned for governors and their spouse at an amount not exceeding 100 million naira for the governor per annum and 15 million naira for the deputy governor. A 5-bedroom mansion in Abuja and right here in Akwa Ibom State, and also allowance of 300% of annual basic salary for the deputy governor, 300% of annual basic salary every 4 years, and severance gratuity. And when we look at some retirees, pensioners complaining, primary school teachers, they've not been able to pay them. But we're very sure that this particular amount is going where it belongs as at when due. What's your reaction on that? And what is the House of Assembly? What would you say they should do? What are they doing?
See, the the allowances and salaries and gratuities of the governor is charged to the consolidated revenue of the states. It's not subject to budget. As consolidated revenue of the state is where that money is being charged. It's an abuse because the allowances of the governor, the salaries and allowances of the governor is charged to the consolidated revenue of the states. It's a serious an abuse, just like the other callers were saying. This work doesn't have, of course, unfortunately, in Nigeria here, don't let anybody tells you, I'm the governor, I'm the president, I have the interest of the people I have. They are, all of them are pursuing their personal purse. Because I have lived in other organized society, other civilized society. No governor can do what we're doing. No president can do what we're doing. I give you, for example, if Udo Emmanuel is passing on the road, you see how the police will chase people inside the bush. Number of convoy. I've gone to other, let us not use European templates. Let's use African countries. I've been to other countries, for example, like I was in a foreign boys school in Ivory Coast. The president of the country of the republic was going to the presidential mansion. If you have been to Abidjan, this is on foreign boys school. The mansion, the presidential mansion is by the left. The president resident by the right. The president stood by the traffic light. My friend said, this is not your country. If the president will pass this traffic light, this red light, will riot, will remove you the next day. Can that happen in Nigeria? Do they take the interest of people like that? A local governor, I call local because the other time when Becky Anderson was interviewing Governor Godwin Akpabio during that child wage camp, he said that Max Foxton was the one that was anchored on the story. On the child wage. I was the one who uncovered that fraud. Those white people came here to commit fraud. I was the one who uncovered it. And then he said Max Foxton was saying Becky Anderson is on the line, is on the line right now with a local governor from Nigeria. They call you a local governor. Nobody recognizes you. If you go to outside the country, who recognizes you? You say you're from Nigeria, from where? Sometimes you ask, where is he located? You see that? So a governor will be going on the road. Look at number of SUVs, bulletproof vehicles, and then they look at number of riders. They will just get up from the road. He will delay. They will beat you. Ordinary commissioner who sometimes will carry SSS and move on the road. They won't allow you to pass. So this is an abuse that it doesn't happen in other jurisdictions. It's only in Nigeria. And they do this with impunity and go away with it. It doesn't happen in other civilized society. You can't see this kind of thing.
Let's move on to CRAP. CRAP has always been in the forefront advocating for pension of ex-governors and deputy governors to be stopped. Now, do you think they have such rights to go to the extent of instituting a court case to achieve this?
Yes. You see, if an individual, if you look at the Court of Appeal decision in the case of Ganifa Ami versus the president, it's a 2007 Court of Appeal decision. That case was that Obasanjo appointed Okonjo-Iweala as finance minister. That was the only minister that was paid in US dollars. Ganifa Ami went to court and said, look, the constitution says the minister shall be paid in naira. Why do you pay? And you are paying Okonjo-Iweala far more than what you are paying others. He went to court. And then the issue that came up was the issue of local standard. And in that decision, said that Ganifa Ami is a taxpayer, and as such, he has the locals to challenge what happened to the money of the people. So the people have the right to ask what happened to our money. This money doesn't belong to any governor, even though they take that and say that it's my money. Because sometimes even the governor say, "I gave you my money." You ask the governor, "Did you bring it from the sale of your father's palm fruit?" I talk that it's my money. Is it the way they talk arrogantly? It's my money. Which money? State funds? Of course, you cannot do that in Nigeria. You can't do that in other civilized society. You will go to prison. The British Prime Minister cannot tell you that the money of the British money is his own money. They will make sure that he resigns. In fact, they ask him to go. That's why in other civilized society, I don't even use, some African countries. They have gone far. You go to Ghana, they have gone far. You go to Kenya, they have gone far. You go to South Africa. I don't want to use South Africa because South Africa is an advanced country in Africa. They have all gone far. I was in South Africa. I met with President Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma was a place called Carlton Center by Commercial Avenue. He was coming with just 2 riders, and he cannot oppress the people. The president will go. Of course, they will call for his impeachment. I remember one time in South Africa, the president convoy in the road from Limpopo to Musina, he was going at the speed of 140 kilometers, whereas the speed limit is 120. The president vehicle was fine. And they asked the president that the president ought to have told his people that were driving in that there's a speed limit here, you can't go more than 120. They brought the matter out to Parliament that they threatened to impeach the president if he doesn't pay the fine. The president had to pay the fine from his own pocket quickly, otherwise they will impeach him. But you see the speed people, which kind of organization, where is this? You look at them, when somebody comes from organized society, say, these people are still in the cave, this is animal farm, these people are zoo. Honestly, the abuse of what these people do, and the House of Assembly of this acquirement, that should check the governor, his exercises, and now they are just in the pocket of the governor. Okay, look at, let's take for example, this 2020 budget. The governor made a peanut budget for education. Peanut, 4 billion. And then the one for the government house, he located over, I think, 30-something billion. Are you building a new government house? Instead of the House of Assembly to ask His Excellency, why will you allocate this peanut to education? And then you are allocating this amount of money. That money is not accountable to anybody. And then they just say, because in practice, what happened in practice is that when such a law goes to the House, money will share hands with the MPs. And they'll just quickly pass the law and say they have passed it. And you look at these people. These people, the governors will take the money, this bulk of money, take it and stash it in different. You see, one thing I also like God is that God is not a man. See, most of these ex-governors, see the way they will carry money to go and bury in Sokaway. Is that a human being? They will change it into a hard currency, go and bury it in the Sokaway. Some will go and bury it in overhead tank. Some will take it to the farm to go and bury in the farm. You now look at this man is it a human being that will carry money to go and bury in the Sokaway? Of course, you see what the agencies have recovered money from ex-political officers. Some of them were being buried in Sokaway tank, in Sokaway toilet. Some of them were buried in a water tank. Some of them go and bury money in the farm. You have seen they have the recover. Of course, you still have a former managing director of NPC. He went and carried dollars and then in a local village and put a conditioner and then put his former managing director of NPC, the group manager of NPC, and they went and recovered the money. That the man was putting a conditioner to cool hard currency in a village. You see that? This is an abuse.
Reaction on the Federal High Court in Lagos that was ordering the pensions to be collected by the former governors now serving as ministers and members of the National Assembly. We'll get your reaction, but let's get more reactions from our listeners. 0902-223-1011 or 0 for serving the people.
You see, another jurisdiction, political office holders, it is a voluntary service. It's a voluntary service. They only give you an allowance for sitting. That's why you don't see people that have no handwork going into politics in organized society. But here, an average politician here had no handwork. An average person that was coming to become a politician asked the person, even those who had handwork, because of the kind of jumbo pay they were going to abuse to get, they will abandon that service. Some were either a legal practitioner like myself, some were accountants, some were architects, and what have you. I will abandon it. Some will even claim to be pastors. They abandon the calling of God because they want to enjoy the booty of office. They abandon it to go and get it. And because when you go there, there's no check and balances. So, I always blame, number one, the House of Assembly of a state who are ought to be a check, because the Constitution gave a lot of power to the House of Assembly. Because if you look at the powers to check the exercise of the governor is contained in the Constitution for the House of Assembly, and also the Nigerian youth who help to bring these irresponsible people to power.
Well, we've seen what the Zamfara State House of Assembly has done. Right here in Akwa Ibom, what would you say?
No, what they should do, having realized that the law that Godswill Atta and Godswill Akpabio brought under 2014 was unconstitutional. What the House of Assembly should do honorably, if actually they're after the people, is to pass a consequential repeal of that enactment. The House of Assembly should pass a law to repeal that enactment and stop the ex-governors from taking this money. Okay, they were so stupid, let me use the word, so irresponsible for them to have passed that law. And the governors excluded them. If they had wanted to be beneficial to all the political officers, they would have included the members of the House of Assembly. And maybe perhaps included all the councillors, also, so that because they're all political office holders, they should also be particular. Most of the former House of Assembly members, if you go, they are living in penury. because some of them abandoned their careers and they don't have anything doing again. Some of them have sold virtually everything they had. So it is actually the House that have a lot of constitutional safeguard to check the governor's exercise on this particular thing. Individual citizens can only go to court and ask that this law should be set aside. As an example, like for example, the Zamfara own, the Taraba State pension law for ex-governor was just set aside last Monday by the court to say that that law was declared null and void because the House of Assembly of the state has no constitutional power to enact such a legislation. So an individual can go to court, individual citizen in the states, as long as you're a taxpaying citizen, because that's the condition. Because if they raise the local standard, you can't raise the issue of saying, look, I'm a taxpayer in the state, and I use that as an example of the court of appeal decision in the case of Ghana fire me, and then challenge it that the law should be set aside. And that I think they have some courageous judges, because if you look at how the judicial arms of government, they don't pay. If you look at the salaries of judges, you weep. Judicial officers.
All right, let's get more reactions from our listeners. Hello, good morning to you. Welcome.
The suit and join the House of Assembly of Akwa Ibom State and the government of Akwa Ibom State. Those are the principal parties in the suit. And you traverse that the House of Assembly, being a party, had no constitutional power to make such an enactment. And that the beneficiary of that man had no such, they are not entitled to benefit from such enactment because it was passed unconstitutionally. So when you meet your lawyer or whatsoever you want to brief, we'll be able to brief you who are the parties. But the principal parties is to be the House of Assembly of the state who enacted such unconditional enactment, and the government of, for example, the government of Akwa Ibom State. So that you see the amount of money, how these people are living flamboyantly, and that is why when they leave office, they can't survive. That's why they want to go back. That's why you see them, they want to become every government. That's why no matter how bad the government is, because they cannot,
even 7 ministers, they're still receiving pension from the
yes, they're still receiving. Even they go back to the Senate. Well, most after they go back to the Senate, they'll still collect all the allowances in the Senate, come back to the Senate and still collect the pension from this thing. And then most of them were former public office holders, and they're still collecting pension from their, either they were ex-police officers, where they're still paying them pension. They go back and become a governor, they still collect pension. Go back to the Senate, they still collect money. What do you want to do with this money? It's not irresponsible money that a man that doesn't have the value for the money. As if your life of a man consists in abundance of things that he possesses.